Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Mike Farley, Poolside Perspective Podcast, and we have another podcast for homeowners to figure out what their journey should be like in the pool and outdoor living space. So it's a fun journey, and we have fun topics every week. And my new co-host here is Trey.
Howdy.
Actually, why don't you introduce yourself? Some people probably don't know much about you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. My name is Trey Farley. Yep, I'm the son of Mike right here, but I'll be calling him Dad because that's my name for him. But I've been in the pool industry for the past 5.5 years, and before that, I think like 8 years ago, I interned for you for a summer, and before that, I was cleaning pools. So I've been around pools pretty much my whole life. Went to a soccer game when I was I think second grade or something like that, and he would go draw and draft afterwards, and I would be in the hot tub just chilling, eating popcorn, drinking a Dr. Pepper, A&W, whatever it was at the time. And so yeah, I've got chlorine in my blood, and I'm very appreciative of it. So yeah, that's a little backstory for you.
Wow. Well, thank you. And for those that don't know me, I got a degree in landscape architecture way back from Texas Tech, go Red Raiders, and the 80s, and worked in the high-end residential market for a little while, and then started working with swimming pool companies, and then just decided to move up the food chain and control more of that process in the early 90s out in Northern California. So we work predominantly here in DFW now, but we do the podcast to give people information all over the country because I choose not to travel to other locations. And if you listen to some of our episodes, you'll find out why. And Kevin, my other co-host, is on a leave of absence currently, receiving some treatment for cancer. And his voice, he thinks, is a little too scratchy. And so he'll be back with us soon, and he appreciates the thoughts and prayers. So we've got a really cool episode this week, and we're going to get into some of the most beautiful things about swimming pools that you can think of. So I've known Ray for a number of years, and Ray does some of the most beautiful tile work in the country and is renowned for everything that he does. But I'm not going to steal a lot of his thunder. We'll just let him explain some of his journey and his products and his process, which is all a really, really great story for him and for the industry. How long have you been working in this industry, Ray?
In the Mosaic industry, I started as an artist, when I was right out of high school. Like I said, I was 18.
Okay.
And I started doing some artwork, but Mosaicist Inc has been around for 25 years. But before that, I was doing artwork. I was installing. I was doing apprenticeship work. Yeah.
So it's always an interesting journey to hear about how people got into the pool or related industry. And so if you could just give us a little bit of your history and the journey that got you to where you started the Mosaicist.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me on your podcast. I think I did an audio podcast once. I'm not quite sure if I ever did it in one of these, but I love the work that you do and what you do, Mike. And I've been following you for a while. And when I started to do promotional work in my company about maybe 5 years ago, I would actually follow you and see the content that you would put out there. And I was like, man, this guy really, knows how to build his brand. It really knows how to get his name out there. So because of that, there's a lot of credibility writing there. And thank you so much for having me on the show and sharing with you guys as well as your listeners.
Well, we're honored to have you as well. So likewise, I've watched you and all the things you've created and you've done. You may have watched me a little bit, but you blew my doors off, as you went right by. You've got quite the social media following. Well, you have a beautiful, beautiful product that you install, and you do some fabulous work on fabulous homes. And so I think that, I stick here in DFW and, just stay in my lane. You get to go over the world, I'll let you tell where you go and stuff like that. So,
well, then again, I watched you a lot, now a little, but I'll get back to the reason why I was actually following the industry and other builders as we get through the podcast. But let's get back to your question, which was how I actually got started.
Yes, sir.
And involved in this industry. And and it's a very interesting niche. If you study a lot of the actual mosaic companies, such as, I mostly don't name names, but in this podcast, I'll go ahead and do so. You have companies like Bizaza, and you have companies like Sea Cheese and other manufacturing companies that have been able to build a marketplace in the United States. They all started with a niche, and then they all had, like, Bizaza was doing wall applications, murals. You didn't see Bizaza specializing in swimming pools and specializing in floors. Then Teachers came out, and when he started coming out and started building his own studios and stuff, there was a lot of marble work and a lot of floor inlays and complete floors. And then and you had a lot of different companies specializing in a lot of different things, such as Mosaicos Venecianos in Mexico, which is also known as the brand Colorines, also started with a lot of swimming pools. And they were for a very long time very heavy with that niche. So my niche started, and when I started as an artist, I started doing my own artwork, and I started doing my own installations. I was involved in music beforehand. I was very successful in my own right with the music industry. I still am involved in the music industry. I own studios called M3 Studios Miami, which is about a little bit over just about 200,000 square feet of studios. So we have 5 sound stages, and we have psych rooms, and we do film, TV, and music.
Wow.
And I came from a production background, and I used to write music and perform myself. So I started to diversify during the day when I wasn't performing. I was doing this ridiculous, like, trinkets and craft, mirrors, and I make a little thing for, a table or for a home that I was renting at the time. And I would do this, and during the day, because at night I was performing, and I was normally what I was doing with the music. But I quickly started getting involved in trying to sell mosaics to just anyone that would buy it. So I thought that if I performed with so many celebrities and so many people, I was able to get them to buy my stuff, and nobody bought anything. My first break did come from an actual old club owner from La Covacha called Aurelio Rodriguez. And he said, well, why don't you go ahead and redo my bar top? And I installed it with epoxies back then. And I quickly learned it was a big mess I made. And I made some money. And I said, hey, I can really do this. I can really have a daytime business, So I made my card, and it's called Ray Corral. And it said artist, and I had my cell phone. And that was basically it. And then I got started with that, and little by little, as I started to promote more here and there, I got to, close it off with this, but I got my bigger break when in California, there was a lady by the name of Christos Kostakos and Terry Kostakos, the chairman of E-Trade. And they were working with a designer named Marilyn Burke, and she was out of Boca, and she had gotten her hands on the trifold that I put some pictures on, and of some works that I did. And it was like ridiculous work. There was like a mirror that I gave my mom, and then there was a tabletop that I did for the same people as a barter that printed my trifold. And then I, broke it ceramic tile, and then, I lived at Home Depot, buying all the tiles and everything, and buying the mastic, the one that comes already pre-mixed. And I was doing all these kind of like ridiculous, and they called me in and said, we really want to do something in the bottom of a pool. And this was in Palo Alto, California. And we want you to design something. And I was good with computers. And I designed something on Photoshop. It was another program back then. And the pool was very big. And I come from an art background. I went to art schools, and I was good with drawing and coloring. I knew programs. I basically drew the medallion in the middle of the pool, very big. And they said, yes. They said, we're going to give you the business. I remember I didn't know how to charge it, what you charge for that. And, as you know, it's called a blind item. People just don't know how much it is. And I never even knew how much it would cost to make it. I had no idea. So I basically made up some number. And then she said, and this is very interesting, and I don't want to babble, but she basically said, you got to give me your social security number. And I said, what for? She's because I'm getting paid cash. You come into the studio, do this, go to this tour, you get paid cash. Go to this, you're an employee, so we have to 1099 you, or we got to give you a W-2, whatever it is. And then she said, listen, if you're gonna take this business seriously, you're gonna have to get a corporation name. And then I picked one of the books, which I have here right in front of me, It's here somewhere. I have a whole library of stuff. And I opened the book and I remember that they referred to a mosaic artist, Mosaicist. A mosaicist is a mosaic artist that designs and manufactures and installs. If you Google what a mosaicist is, it's a noun. It's a name of a person that does a specific craft. And so I said Mosaicist Inc. And at that time, I told my friend, hey, find it if it's online. If nobody has it, www.mosaicist.com. And then I got my Facebook page, and then I got all this stuff, and I got the corporation. And today people think that it's very genius. How did you get that name? How'd you come up with that name? Because I didn't want to do business as Ray Corral, but I needed a company name. So I put Mosaicist because that's what I am. And that's basically how the business was born. We did the pool. And I said I was going to knock one of these out every month, and I was going to become super successful doing this thing. It didn't work out that way, but that's how I got started in this business.
Awesome. So you were asking about the computer and the graphics and all that.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering, because I just scrolled through your Instagram and looking at your designs. I'm just wondering, man, how does this guy design all his stuff? Because I'm sure there's some stuff that would be harder to do than others. So is there like a method to the madness? You just sketch something and you're like, okay, this would be really cool at the bottom of a pool or a mural or something like that.
Uh-huh. Well, for a lot of your listeners, maybe I'm not sure what kind of audience you guys get, but they might be, I'm definitely going to promote this podcast. So I'm going to probably get a lot of clients that are going to be listening to it, and they're going to be listening to what I have to say because they're about to do business with me or so on. So once we got involved in doing my own artwork, I was on, and like I said before, I come from a art background, so I know how to draw.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for me to have a client. Let's say Mike comes to me and says, I want to design at the bottom of my house. Then he starts giving me some ideas. It's very easy for me to grab a piece of paper and pencil and just start drawing. I normally come up with designs right in front of the client. Like right then I sketch a design, I sketch a napkin drawing. And then later on, and I continue, what I do is when I come meet with a client, I usually have their pool for the most part, because you guys know 85% of my business today is swimming pool. And so we normally, I would draw out the pool, just the shape of it. And I will kind of get the idea of where the house is and where the sun and the deep part is and everything. And I bring a formula together, and I basically start to draw depending on a budget or a timeline that I need. Now I've been doing this for 30 years. So so Mosaicist is 25 years old. So I kind of get an idea of what to draw, what to do, and how much. So my canvas is the pool space, the floor for the most part, because that's where you mostly see. And then once I draw it, I give it to my line drawers. Now that wasn't the way before. Before I used to do the line drawing. And then once I do my line drawing, then I'm able to color it and fill it in and do gradients and color. Or a lot of times we do a lot of the coloring by color pencil, because it represents the best preview of what the outcome will be in mosaics. A digital coloring will not represent really what the mosaic will look like, but a color pencil will. So, and then we design it. And then we usually design A, B, and C, and we usually share it with the client, and I usually present it. I'm the one that presents all the artwork for the most part. So we used, a lot of people are like, what do you use? Well, we use SketchUp to draw the pool and give us the square footages. So once we do that, I have a team that uses CAD, but we like to use SketchUp, it's quicker. And then after that, we use Corel Draw. That's our go-to program right now. We used to use Illustrator, we use Corel Draw. And then to color, we use Illustrator, sometimes Photoshop, and hand drawings. And then we present it to the client. Then Corel Draw gets expanded to, the good thing about using the program Corel Draw is that you can scale it as big as you want without losing resolution.
Oh, cool.
So we scale the line drawing, the vector, and we're able to scale it and bring it back. That way we're able to really, and then once we scale it, we print it. And once it gets printed on craft paper, our plotters are 4 feet wide. We print on craft paper, we put it together, we pin it together, and that's our design on the floor. And that's how we start working the mosaic with water soluble glue. But I don't want to get into the mechanics of it. And so I can go ahead and give you guys another chance to ask a question.
So one of the things that I thought was amazing, because I've followed you and listened to some of the stories and how some of you've come up with this, but you draw a lot of inspiration from the home itself, right? So maybe, something on a fireplace or a mantle or a front door, or just a lot of architectural details that you've picked up from there, and then you were able to work those into the design.
Yeah. That's, I don't even know if it's called, it's just, Ray Corral is not Mosaicist. Mosaicist is a company, and we don't sign our work, so it's not like Mosaicist. There's been a couple times that I had signed some works, especially recently. I've been signing some designs I did a big job for St. Regis Hotels, a resort, and I signed my name on it because I designed it, and it's my design. And even though the owner put in his little 2%, I designed it, and I just feel that the company is a little bit odd that will get the credit as an artist, and that St. Regis wanted to have an artist and talk about a person, not a company. So, a lot of times Mosaicists think we have to come up with a design that plays off the home. Number one, we bring in the formulas of, I heard a very successful guy in the industry. I'll tell you who he is. Brian Van Bauer told me a long time ago. He says, most people look at their pool rather than swim in it. And most 98% of the time you're looking at your pool, and the feeling that you get when you look at it, when you wake up in the morning to look at the weather, you're looking at your pool and the color that it has, the contrast that it has against the decking and the background landscaping and all that. I play off on a lot of that because I explain to people, you're going to be looking at this thing longer than you're going to be in it. So, a lot of times it's like bringing people come to me and ask me, can you make something like a color that we had? And I know Mike and you guys, Kevin, you guys have a people that tell you, we want to use this color, this pool that we saw in this hotel in our honeymoon. We want to have that feeling, but they have these setbacks that won't allow it. So you have to come up with the idea of how to show it that they can have that feeling. But then you have to customize to fit their backyard. Same thing. We have to design something that some people want. They know they want something. They know they want to make their pool an art piece. They've seen it on my Instagram. They've seen other people have it, seen magazines, but they don't know what. So it's easy for me to start working with the architecture of the home, designs of the home, the degrees of the arches, the window shape, a relief on top of the mantle of the fireplace, something in the kitchen hood, the decking material, the pattern of the decking material. I mean, anything, then I bring in, when you look at the pool, the angle of the floor and how that correlates to the windows in the house of where they're at, and how you're going to be seeing the pool from the second floor and the first floor. Then the sunrise and sundown, I also bring that into play as well, of when the pool will shimmer and when will it not shimmer. So it can bring in iridescence or 24-karat gold. And then, a lot of these things. And then we talk about budgeting. Some very few, even the richest people that I work with, and I work with billionaires, they don't say we have an open check. They just don't. They know that it's going to be expensive, and they know if they say that, I'm going to take the money, but it's a blind item. People don't know how much it is. So I guide the people through it. And the way I do it is I first explain to them how much it'll cost just to do one color. And then, your pool is really small, so we can maybe do something for this amount of money. And that's it. The problem comes in with these humongous pools and people want to do something elaborate. That's where it starts to get crazy. But yeah, you're right, Mike, I usually bring in a lot of aspects of the home so it tells a story. Because Mosaic is not an artist. So we put it together using all these aspects of the home.
Ray, I have a question. Going back to when you were talking about with the home and everything, I wonder, do you ever take concepts of the design and then maybe if it's like a new build home or something, and then apply it into the home itself, so that way it reflects itself not just in the pool, but like when you're like maybe in a bathroom or a wall in the house or something like that? Have you ever done that?
Yeah. I feel like you maybe watched one of my Instagram videos when I recently just did the client is this big builder. He was building his house for a celebrity. His house is out of control. It's like the $54 million house, and all the next door houses are like $2 million.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's there, but it's the first monster in the neighborhood. And his name is Doug Stark from Prestige Construction.
Okay.
And when he builds the homes, he builds it and he puts the cars in the house. And when you buy the house, it comes with the cars. You got to buy it with the car. Yeah.
That's definitely
cool. And then, he wanted a ocean theme, but he wanted to make sure the water is like the Bahamas. So I'm like, we have no contrast. We can't show the richness of what your investment, but we tried to work as best we could with it. But then he says, we want to do something in the shower pan of the bathroom. So we changed the colors to match the bathroom walls, and we brought in the same idea with a smaller scale into the shower pan. But I do that often. I've had homes in St. Thomas that been for a hedge fund guy, and he wanted the whole house to tell stories in Mosaic. So as you walked in, your first entryway was how they met the husband and wife, and they had the symbol, and then you walked into the kitchen, and the whole home was a pirate that met the mermaid, the siren, which was his wife.
Yeah.
And then at the back of the house was, I wish I could even show you pictures as I'm talking, but in the back it had these two faces, and it was him, the pirate, and she, the mermaid. And they each sent me pictures of their faces, and I made them all in small B, the factory did. And then the whole pool was a whole sunken treasure chest with all these animals and these things. And it all told a story as you walked around the property. So it'll make the Vatican cry of how much money they spent in all this mosaic.
Does that happen often where you're doing mosaics that aren't just art pieces, but they're telling a story? Because I never even thought about that. That's an interesting concept in itself.
Well, for the most part, when let's say let's go back to the pools, because that's what we're really talking about here. Yeah. A lot of times, I try to focus on where the wow factor is going to be at, and that's where we're going to spend the money. Mm-hmm. I try to help the client just not go nuts. And this is what a lot of, let's say, my overseas competitors cannot really do. They can't work with the client one-on-one in the States from the actual company itself and design something and try to bring all this formula together. They'll tell you, we'll do the whole pool, or we'll do, send us a paper clip or talk to your distributor. With me, I bring in how you're going to see the pool, and I look around the pool through the entire home, and I try to get as much information. Sometimes the home is not available, but I try to get a lot of information to try to make sure that we focus on the wow factors in the areas in the pool that people are going to see the most. That way we don't spend a lot of time and money where it doesn't belong, in areas that don't belong. I recently saw a job out of an Italian company that was installed somewhere in California, and they had the mosaics all over the walls. You never get to see the walls. What a waste of investment. The magnification of the water shrinks the wall, and unless you're going to go swimming with the goggle, you're never going to see them. And I'm like, wow, what a waste of money. And also the wrong colors that, you won't see. Sometimes people don't understand that the water hue is a light blue, and there's a reflection of the sky if the pool's outside. If you don't have the right color tones, you're not going to see your investment either. You kind of fade away in a silhouette. So there's a lot of mistakes done by companies who don't specialize in swimming pool application, in artwork. And I see a lot of it going on. But
so you did say something in the beginning. So you work with people, and sometimes they want something simple, but you also do the simply amazing stuff as well. So that's a whole scope of, why would you sell somebody just a single color tile, versus, getting into other things? So just as a question.
First, let me tell you, about 75% of the people that do designs in the bottom of the pool did not want to design. They just got emotionally involved when they saw it. And this is when they saw the videos. They saw the videos, and they saw how beautiful it can be. And they're thinking, maybe I can do something, because nowadays, I don't know if you guys have gone through this. People just want more out of their backyards. It's just a lifestyle. Yeah, the outdoor living industry is just getting so out of control.
It's great
that they just want. I've seen what you've been able to do, and I know more, Mike. I know more your work. Yeah, I've been following you a lot, but the cascading, they want the rocks, they want to dive off the bigger rocks, and they want this and the lighting and the trees to grow, and they want more and more and more. And whatever happened to the diving board, you know what I mean? So backyard are the living rooms of today. First it went to the living rooms, then it went to the kitchen, and now because of COVID and everything, spilled over into a spillover into the backyard. And people want more. And some people might look at our work and say, oh my God, that's just, a lot of the stuff is not under our control. To answer your question, it sometimes starts extremely gaudy. And for me to be able to promote these jobs, I am like, let's pull back a little bit. The colors you're using are wrong. It's not going to work. It cannot be seen when it's full of water. I think you should scale it down a little bit. It's just a little bit too big. It's a little bit to this. And, but for the most part, a lot of people, they're just looking for more. And that's where we come in. And it's artwork inside pools. You have Craig from the people from over there from, now they're in Abu Dhabi. I think they're in Dubai. And I've dealt with them before. I know them very well. The people at the ceramic tile, the ceramicists, they were in the UK before. I mean, they filled a niche of doing artworks inside pools. And before that, there wasn't that many people that were pounding the industry of underwater applications until we came in. I mean, the Mosaic in Mexico was doing it, but they kind of fell off a little bit from the marketing grid. And then we came and we took over, I feel. But one of the things I also set aside, and I'm not going to go, maybe you obviously have more questions, is in order for us to do designs and pools, we have to offer a full turnkey business. We have to get involved in manufacturing. We have to get involved in designing, manufacturing, and we have to get involved in installation. So Mosaicist, that's what we are. A full-fledged one-body company that does design work, manufactures the material, and puts it in for you as well. So because a lot of people, that big project that we did in Maryland Burke over there in Palo Alto, California, she said, if you can install this, you would do a lot better with your business, because they went all over town looking for installers to install this big medallion that I made. So because we offer installation, and we're liable for the entire project altogether from A to Z, people feel comfortable letting us fly with artwork. And they say, you know what, if they're going to put it in, then it's on them. And but again, we sent a lot of jobs, sometimes start with medallions, and very few end up with single solid colors, because what they want to do is horrific. But we do single solid colors as well, because it pays the bill. And we're very good at it. And I would say we're about 50-50 right now, 50 with design work and 50% single solid color, because we have a lot of installers, and my guys, I have to keep them working. They work for Mosaicist full time. So we take on a lot of single solid color pools. Mike, you had a question?
So what you're saying is you do all the aspects of it, the artwork, the manufacturing, and the installation. That's kind of a unique niche, is it not?
Yeah, well, one of the few in the United States. I don't even know. I mean, I can talk to somebody or some know-it-all, and they might say, "Yeah, I know somebody that does it." I don't know anybody that has 29 working full-time installers. In my company, we have 29 installers right now that work full-time with Mosaicist Inc. When you work with us, our contract comes under Mosaicist Inc. That's it. So we manufacture under that name. The boxes come with Mosaicist Inc. It comes with our warranty, the materials warranty for lifetime. And we also warranty our installation as well. And it's all turnkey, one company, not this, one company manufactures, and then the other company eats the liability. And then, if it doesn't go well, the installation messes up, they can close that company down.
Right.
Nah, we do it all with one company, and we're insured, we're bonded. And, and it's a very unique setup. I don't have anybody. We have a lot of companies that manufacture and they can refer installers, but those referring, and when the shit hits the fan, everybody goes running, it's the manufacturer's fault. It's this guy's fault. It's everybody's fault. But, that's why we don't have that problem. We absorb the liability, but we actually fill the niche in the industry. And this might have more questions from you guys. to work with the pool builder. The pool builders for us are our bread and butter. And they're the ones that are the most important to us. They're the ones that we need to protect. They're the ones that we need to build up. And they're the ones that we need to help make money. So we need to keep zero liability to the pool builder and make a nice profit margin for them. And also make sure we get in and get out of the project fast. That way we don't hold up the pool builder's last straw forever. So we put this formula together in my company that makes us really unique. And that's the reason why we have such a humongous amount of volume. But we can talk about that a little bit later, or I don't want to go into it just yet until you guys ask.
So when you go into this process, you're doing the installation. Was the installation done by you in the beginning, or did you have a team that you worked with? And I mean, how did you learn this skill set to, be able to have the confidence that, because there's a lot of people that say, tile is hard to work with, and, there's a lot of problems with it and stuff like that long term. So you must have how did your process come about from the installation?
From the installation part?
Yes, sir.
The installation part started down in Luigi Scolet, which is an Italian mosaicist, master mosaicist, and he was an actual teacher in the school of Irene, which is it has a different name now in Italy. And he went and worked in Mexico and had a marble business in Mexico. And then he also ran the small T warehouse, and also a big small T studio in Cuernavaca, Mexico, in Atingo. This guy is a guy that showed me the business. This guy showed me how to quote. He showed me the formulas of how to quote. He showed me about the little secrets of installation. He showed me about how to work with masonry lime, how to mix it with cement and Portland type 1, type 2 that we use, what kind of silica sands to use. And then I would spend time in Mexico, just learning from different groups of installers. Now, at that time, a lot of them use a wet set system because there's pros and cons, and there's benefits for the wet set, which is a very old world system. But then again, we learned also modern applications where you learn how to use synthetics. But I would go to Mexico and get involved and start getting my hands wet installing. Then I would come here and sell my little project, a little powder bath floor, a little, something little small job here and there. By no means am I a master installer at all, meaning with my hand. But I'm definitely a really good mosaic director in regards to learning how to bring the teams together, the talent together, what to look for, how to balance out the installation crews, how to get the most out of them, how to be the most effective. And we put a system together that I learned from Don Luigi. It's more of an assembly line style of installing. It's not like a master installer and a helper. It's a group of 5 guys, and every single one of them does something different. And they're all very good at it. And I'm talking about only one guy picks up the paper, takes off the paper off the mosaic, cleans the mosaic, and throws away. That's it. That's all he does. So we're able to put together a system, and we were able to put together a system that people don't even understand how fast we get these things done. But we're able to put together a system that is extremely efficient, and nobody works like us. So I haven't yet to see anybody work like us.
You're Henry Ford of the tile business, huh?
Yeah, I know. He's the first one that started the assembly line for cars.
Right. Yeah. So you've created that. I didn't realize that all your guys do different things. That's really amazing. I had no earthly idea. On these installations that you're doing, are they just residential, or are they commercial, or are they both?
Because of the fact that we have large crews, we're able to knock out really big jobs. One of the, you got Ryan Hughes Design Build. He's out there selling 15,000, 6,000 square feet pools, and we're finished them. A month and a half, 15,000 square feet, a month and a half. How can in a month and a half you finish a 50,000 square foot pool? I mean, surely it's going to fall apart, right? Well, it's level, plumb, and square, no sheet joints, and it's perfect installation. And the way that we do it is through this system, but that we use. And because we have a large network of installers, we also work with a lot of installers also. We also collaborate, and we refer a lot of the other installers as well. The only thing is that for me here in Florida, you have these limitations on colors that you can use.
Right.
And because you have to see the people swimming in commercial projects like pools, like resorts, you have to be able to see them swimming. And there's all these situations of code and all these things that they have to. Every state is different. I think here in Florida, they're very limited to the colors. Right now, we're bidding one out. But I've done a lot of medallions and inlays in commercial pools, but I have done a lot of resorts and really high-end condominiums, for example, in Cayman Islands, also in the Turks and Caicos. I do a lot of the big commercial pools there. And I recently did one for 17,000 square feet that we recently finished called the Pinnacle. And we're going to up to redo a pool called the Regent Grand. We've won tons of awards, and this is about 8,000 square feet of a design and everything. And it's an amazing pool. It's one of the most popular pools in the entire Caribbean. It's almost like a landmark. We do commercial pools, but here in the States, I don't do as many commercial pools.
Makes sense because of the limitations in the colors. So
real quick, what colors are not allowed? Is it like y'all can't do black or something like that? Or I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
Yeah, it has to be very light colored.
But no dark colors
for you to see. No, because then you can't see what's in it. Somebody's drowning or something. There's a lot of situations like that. Yeah. So what happens is, if the pool, the lighter colors look from a distance, looks like it's plastered. So in order for you to get your bang for your buck, you're going to want to go from a medium blue that is not really found or lasts long in plaster to darks, to colors and vibrant colors that you cannot get with plaster. And that's how you get your bang for your buck. That way you can see the pool and say, that pool, looks like it's tiled. Like when you look outside your window, when you get to that Mexican resort, there's tile there. When you see that cobalt blue, there's tile there. You can see it from distance. But if you're going to see a light tile, you don't get your bang for your buck. So a lot of people say, why invest in it? I know it feels good and so on, but why invest in it? But
especially if you're looking at it every single day, like you said, like you're looking at your pool, you want it to stand out a little bit. That's what tile does. Real quick, do y'all have any issues with thermal shock? Because you're in Florida, so it gets real hot, just like Texas. And I know a lot of people that install tile here have so many issues with just glass tile in general. So how do you get around that? Is that just your system that you got put in place?
Yeah, the real problems, here in front of me. The real problem, and it's funny because I just got this from somebody that they put this laser.
That's cool.
And
cool.
Whatever. But you have the backing here, and you have the mesh backing, and this is a clear glass tile.
Okay.
This is the problem right here, the clear glass tile. The translucent for outdoor applications and underwater applications, the translucent tile is an issue and a problem in the industry. It is a very sore thumb for a lot of people, and it's hurt a lot of pool builders in the industry with failures, discoloration, cracking, crazing, thermal shock, and all that. So when you're talking about thermal shock, the major problem has come to light with the translucent tile in the outdoor living industry is the problem. I can spend 2 hours talking about this, and I can talk. So, but I'll keep it short. With opaque colors, they use different chemistry.
Yeah.
And they're not as rigid. The translucent tile, being if it's a recyclable tile or you buy the bead or you buy it from window companies or you heat the beads and then you go ahead and put the color in the back or whatever. The translucent tile it's extremely rigid. Anything behind it, for example, if you have, let's stick with thermal shock. If you have the backing, the tile, a glass plane cannot have the same temperature in the same plane. So in other words, if this is hot right here and you cool this right here, it's going to snap in the middle or when you see people blowing glass, they have, they're blowing glass, the glass is hot and then they pour just cold water and they snap it right there to make the vase or whatever that they're making because it doesn't exist. For example, if you go to, what about in an office building? Well, if it's really hot outside and you have a building that's really high in New York, if it's really cold inside, right, put your hand on the glass. It's hot all the way through. It's not going to be cold on the inside and hot on the outside because it's going to crack right in the middle. So it's just physics. So thermal shock happens that a lot of the times is that you have a different temperature within the same plane. The setting material behind the tile is hot, and then the front of the tile cool. So why is this translucent tile a problem in the industry? Because tile pool these days are more lifestyle. You got the shallow area, you got the spillover walls, you got the negative edges, you got, there's all these things that come out of the water and spill over. Well, a lot of times here in Florida, all the where the money's at is the houses have to face the backyards face east.
Right.
Because that's where the water is for the most part. A lot of the times that the houses face west and the water is there is mostly buildings here in Miami. So you get a lot of these companies that, first of all, you can't anneal. Nobody can guarantee annealing on 100%. No company can make sure that their glass tile is perfect from any kind of blemish when it comes out of those machines. No company. There's only one company that I know out of Canada that will, and that's because they manufacture in a different way. They manufacture with a pool sheeted glass, and that's called Interstyle. And I know these guys very well, and I've installed Interstyle. So, but this glass tile that's machine made, you're going to run anywhere between a 1-2%, depending on the machines and the industrial machines that they have, that are going to have already microscopic cracks in it because they anneal in a very fast way and not all the tiles perfect. Those tiles are installed on that wall on the outside of the spillover, and then, or on that water line. When you have that 10 o'clock, it starts a little later and you have the sun baking that translucent tile and that water starts to spill over and starts to cool. All of a sudden you get that call within 6 months, a year down the road, or even 2 years, and they say, hey, we're having a problem with a tile. And they're like, what is it? And you see like 20 of them that are all busted and cracked. And that's because a lot of it is thermal shock. Some of it also is expands, contracts. Of course, this is not the whole story. You have a little bit more that happens to the tile in case people are listening and saying that's not true. There's a lot more of it. Yeah, there is. I know I'm not going to cover all of it now, but that's one of the problems we have. The water line starts to crack too. The cheaper the tile, the less investment they make in annealing correctly. I know these tiles come in a bundle like this down the belt. They come in a bundle. And you know what? The outside anneals properly, but the inside ones sometimes have problems. So if they don't lay it out on the belt properly and then it anneal all the same, if they're on a bunch, it's not that they're going to have 2%, 3% problems. And then comes the problem of you installing a full tile pool. And now the client wants to change the whole tile because you change a couple of them and then some of them fell off. And then the problems start with that. But anyways, there's a little bit more problems to that, but the translucent tile has been a big problem with thermal shock. It's champion of hurting the industry, and most installers nowadays, right now, today, most seasoned installers and people that are out there that are experienced will say they will not install a completely clear translucent tile without at least a darker color. Most of them will say that because a lot of them have gotten hurt. I don't know if I answered your question, but
No, you did. Thank you for elaborating on it, for sure.
So somebody's like, man, I saw your stuff on Instagram and it's amazing. And I want Ray to work on my pool. So how does this process start and how long does it take to go from, hey, pick up the phone and call Ray to I've got my finished product in the bottom of my pool? And how soon should they start in this process? I mean, if they've got the pool gun-ited, should they have called you already? Or should they have called me when they're putting the pencil to the paper, trying to figure these things out, early in the design process? I mean, how does this process work ideally?
Ideally already, we do a lot of volume. So right now in the hopper, I might have about 70 projects that are interested in doing something. And almost half of those have not dug a shell just yet.
Okay.
But it is the pool builders who are getting the clients emotionally involved and exposing them to my social media. And that's what it's there for. There to help the pool builders explain that they can get more out of their pool and show it without having to sit there and learn how to sell it or how to explain it. The social media, especially the Instagram, does that for us, does that for me, does that for you guys. that are out there. And of course, pool builders are talking about it. And then some of them, sometimes they say, yeah, I have a guy who's interested in all tile and so on. But the process usually starts when the pool's already on the ground and they're about 6 months away from having swimming in the pool is when I start getting calls. And then it comes from different things. The client saw something in a magazine. The neighbor has a Mosaic pool that he went to a party with. He saw something on your YouTube, something like that. Somehow, but it mostly comes from the pool builders, which is this is our boots on the ground. These are the people who are talking about Mosaicist Inc, the pool builders. So, we always try to help them as best as possible and finish as best as possible and help them sell the product as best as possible and get it installed properly. So one of the things I wanted to say, Trey, is that we manufacture our own glass. We have also our own colors, and we also have translucents too.
Okay.
And sometimes it breaks my heart, we don't make any color. We don't make any, the bigger the size, the harder it is to anneal. So we don't make anything bigger than a 1 inch by 1 inch with our translucent. And we have a patent, let's just say we have a backing that we put on it that it, smelts within and fuses in the glass behind the glass that keeps us away from the liability of ghosting and also discoloration.
What's ghosting? What's ghosting? Sorry, I haven't heard that term before.
They call it ghosting. Most Californians will call it ghosting or whatever. I've heard it from there a lot. It's like when you get like a different discoloration and kind of like shading.
Okay.
The setting material changes colors, or maybe there was too much water and the hydration changed the setting material. It's also happened with synthetics too. A lot of people, synthetics won't let it happen. It's happened with synthetics. Water will still migrate behind the tile. And water will also in the UV and everything, maybe some claim they don't, but I've seen it happen with every single product that is out there. I've seen some sort of something happen in underwater applications. So what happens with us? What happens when we manufacture the product and when we install it? Who are we going to point the finger at if it starts to discolor? We can't. We cannot. How can we leave our pool builders hanging with the bill to fix it? And how can we just start blaming it on the setting materials? We can't. So we have to make sure that our line, which by the way, we have over 8 tests with Tile Council of America on all of our glass tile. And, we don't even think that it really that's even important in my business. It might be important to some other people, but it's not important to us because we warranty all of our work. It's turnkey. We're going back to Mosaicist. We manufacture and we also install and we warranty the entire thing. And we never leave our pool builders hanging. So we still work with translucents, but we apply them in specific areas and we really educate the pool builders and so on. And we're very careful with the application and what we use and all that. And we've used synthetics and we've used also cementitious as well. But we're very flexible. But go ahead.
So your range, do you go anywhere in the world, wherever someone wants you, or do you have a specific areas? I know you're in Florida, but you might have asked that earlier, but I might have just missed it. But yeah, where's your...
We go nationwide. Okay. We go to other countries as well. We don't get involved in installation in other countries as much because the labor is there.
Yeah.
We sold to Russia. We've sold to Cyprus, Switzerland, all throughout the Caribbean. And, sometimes they get the labor, they get the people. We did a job in Bermuda and I went over there to kind of train the installers, and everything I told them, they didn't do. They did it their own way. And you know what? It looks pretty good. Sheet joints, a couple of things here and there. Always I find something, but, and they installed a clear translucent tile. It's a pool from Bermuda with 3 huge turtles that I designed. It was about 3,500 square feet. Anyways, but usually it's the United States that is lacking qualified installers that know what they're doing and that charge the right amount of money. The problem with it, the problem is installers that are out there, and no one's really teaching, no one's really educating. There's a lot of really good installers out there that are not branding themselves, that people can't find where they're at, that they're difficult to find. We all know the ones that are easiest to find. I'm easy to find and all and then these people tend to be expensive. And then, the problem with the pool builders is there's a very little profit margin too much liability when you're dealing with such high cost and so much volume of tile. In cases, I recently saw a failure that almost shut down a well-established pool company. They could not pass the buck to anybody. No liability insurance was going to cover anything. And they had to replace the whole thing. And let me tell you something, it came out of the pool builder's pocket and he almost had to shut down the company. And his company has been around for a long time and we all know who this guy is and he's big. And it was heartbreaking. And after that, who the hell wants to do glass tile? I don't. You know what I mean? But, he bought it from here and then he, bought it from Spain and then had someone else install it from over there, and this company from Spain told him you should use these people and they came and messed up the whole thing. And it was a humongous pool and you had to rip it all out.
So you said that, you did design work pretty much for some people in Russia. So if you don't install it, are they buying your product as well? Or do you ever use somebody else's product on your design, or do you strictly just use yours because that way you keep the liability off of that?
It's a really, really, really good question. And a lot of people don't know that I have good relationships with other Mosaic companies.
Okay.
They just don't know. I have good relationships with Trend, good relationships with Bazaza. It's the industry. We talk to each other. A lot of us talk to each other, and this is the first time I say it in your podcast. But we talk to each other, we refer, work to each other, and sometimes I have seen projects from other Italian manufacturers land in my studios for us to do a mosaic with their tile, and we do it, but we don't promote it because it doesn't help our brand. It's not part of our brand, and they don't want us to promote it. They don't want us to say, "Oh, we collaborated with Mosaicist Inc on this one." No, it doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? So, but we manufacture our own tile, and do we distribute? Yes. The problem we do is that we're not set up for low volume. So I can easily sell you a 1,500 square feet of tile, and ship it right to your door, and it'd be very difficult to sell you 150 square feet for that water line. I'm going to change. Those things are changing. I'm going to get involved in more distribution shortly in the next year or so. We're going to get involved in distribution. Yeah.
A lot of the time customers will ask like, "Hey, if I'm doing something wrong, please let me know that we're doing that." And obviously my dad's going to be like, "Oh, I'm going to make sure you stay away from bad decisions." What does that look like in your situation when obviously you draw something in front of them? But I'm sure there's going to be an artistic customer that comes around and maybe they want something and you just don't think it's a good idea, or how does that process work? I'm sure you've had an experience like that before.
I mean, like I mentioned it before, some people have this mosaic sickness. They want to put the mosaic everywhere. They want to put it on the walls. They want the waterline design.
Yeah.
We want the mosaic. We want the whole mosaic pool. And this is what I get all the time. We want a waterline design. Why? Why do you want, if you can come up with a glass tile right under the coping, why do you need a waterline design? For what? You don't have a waterline. You don't need a waterline. You're not plastering your pool. Plus, you don't see half of it. Most of the time, my pools are usually darker in color. They reflect the top of the water with the sky. So you don't see half of the mosaic, half of the waterline underwater, and you just don't see through it unless it's very light in color. So it's just hard. I've seen pools I can show you if I was going to screen share, but we're not going to do that. But I can show you how people do designs in the waterline. And sometimes I'm like, why don't we get this design and we put it on the floor where you can really see it all the time and do that. But a lot of times and I mentioned before, I help the client step back a little bit. And sometimes I show them what they want, but it really is, you really have to explain to them why it won't work. The good part about where I am with my company now, after 25 years of Mosaicist Inc, is that I have so many projects. There's over 600, 700 projects that I've done all together in the past, 30 years, let's say, because I was doing it before Mosaicist was incorporated, that I can show them what doesn't work. And believe me, I have some really juicy ones that you want to throw up if you see them. I mean, from animals that are out of proportion to a shark swimming next to a goldfish. It's just the most ridiculous, stupidest things. From Mickey Mouse at the bottom of the pool. I have a client in the Keys that wanted alligators, and when they look real as shit, You dive in there and you're thinking people, this is what they don't want. They don't want to see snakes and alligators in a dark pool because they're afraid that like if you jump in a canal, this guy wanted him in his pool. It's just ridiculous. Then you get the plastic surgeon.
Trey'd be terrorized.
Yeah, we were just talking before the podcast, and I was like, I love pools because I know there's not going to be gators like there is in the lake, and then there's not going to be sharks like there is in the sea. So I think that's just ironic. But yeah.
Then and then you get like Lenny Hochstein, and I can name his name because he's a very well-known plastic surgeon here in Miami. I think his ex-wife was, in the Housewives of Miami or whatever, stuff like that. And we did a couple, 3 or 4 of his pools. And I think the second pool we did a siren in the middle of the pool. And, she didn't have anything on her, nothing covering, and it went from a nice, beautiful Roman style Versace-esque design to a freaking, B cup. All her tits were out to here. I don't know if I can say that, but they were out to here. It turned into a strip joint. It turned into like, front row at the strip joint here. And it was just terrible. And I had to Photoshop that design. I had to make them smaller, the tits, so they could be at least people could understand that it was an artwork and it was a Versace old world, classical design. But he wanted his work to be shown in this piece. What do you think about that?
Yeah, plastic surgeons.
A lot of guys used to like dive head first to center.
Good old cannonball.
So, the tile itself, is it easier to maintain than a plaster pool or different finishes? I mean, is that a benefit of this product, and does it last longer than typical pool finishes?
Well, they always say, pools last a lifetime. I just saw an advertisement from one of you guys say this pool will last a lifetime or your lifetime. I mean, if your average age of people investing is in the 30s, or late 30s, so how much more time do you have? Yeah, it could be your lifetime. So, and then again, a lot of setting material companies say that they warranty their setting materials for 10 years. But that also it depends. Your water balance and your maintenance is extremely important.
Certainly.
If you have a very acidic water and you abandon your pool, and you're gonna start deteriorating your setting materials and discoloring your setting materials, and they start to change composition. And so you have to. There's a balance between maintenance to answer your question, the tile is vitreous, it's non-porous, and the colors all the way through. My tile is. And we have a lifetime warranty on our tile. And so it lasts a lifetime, the tile itself. The installation is what you need to make sure is, that you need to also make sure that every 10 years, let's say, if you use cementitious or even if you use synthetic, it'll be nice to lower your pool water, take out the grout, redo the grout again, cementitious or synthetic. And I've talked to a lot of people with this synthetics, and it's the same thing. So you want to freshen up the grout, make sure you get that compression and it continues to hold, and you refresh it. And I have been in business on the Mosaicist for over 25 years, and I've done pools that are still very beautiful, but they have emptied out the pool and they have redone the actual maintenance. Now, one of the revenues that my company does is maintaining these projects. So a lot of people are like, oh, you work with a lot of cementitious. Yeah, I do, because we're very good at it, and because I can control them, because we do a lot of artwork inside pool. So we have to have the kind to make them fit on the floor and everything. So, but also we like to maintain cementitious. So every 6, 7, 8 years, we will go in between jobs. My crews, they generate over 6 figures of revenue just maintaining the pools, just eating out the grout, taking the grout down, making a new void, regrouting, taking all the calcium, the lime mark, all the scum, all that stuff off, and refreshing the whole pool again. So that's another line of business that I have. And that's the reason why I prefer cementitious, because it generates this other maintenance situation, business line that we generate revenues from. A lot of people don't know that either.
How often do you recommend people to do that, to drain their pools down and redo the grout?
I've seen pools that have to be emptied in 2 years.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. I've seen in 2 years. I've seen all the metals of the pool, all the yellowing and the grout.
2 years is like earliest though, right? You're thinking like an average customer. What do you think?
The average is no. The correct saying is in the 10 years.
Okay.
I've seen.
Okay.
In 10 years, you definitely want to redo them. And I've had people not care. They have the grout all eaten up and everything is like after 13 years, 14, and they love their pool. They don't want to do nothing with it. And a lot of times with these commercial applications, I've been able to see really a humongous amount how we did a humongous wear and tear on the app because it's these commercial applications and these resorts and Turks and Caicos, and they don't ever want to empty out their pools because it disrupts business.
Yeah.
So I'm able to go over there and see how we're doing. And so I have a really good track record of what we used to do, materials that we used to use, and how we continue to change and get better and change compositions of material and work with different suppliers and manufacturers to get better and better and better as we move along. But anyways, to answer your question, anywhere between 8 to 10 years is the normal that I would suggest anybody to do so.
And I'm curious, do you see saltwater pools eroding grout quicker? Because I have no idea. I'm just wondering if that might be a thing too.
Is it saltwater pools or now remember I do tile. So is saltwater pools or salt systems that create the chlorine? Is that what you mean?
Yes. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, that's well all the pools that I work on.
They're all salt
now are
okay.
they're all salt systems.
Okay.
I don't think that anybody here is using the little ducky or the tabs anymore. I don't think so. I don't know.
So salt's very popular in Florida
Okay.
as a market.
So
in Texas, we hardly do any salt. It's mostly ozone and minerals as a sanitizer. But so we just need to get some raised pools here, and then we can find out if that holds up better than salt water does. So anyway.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
So I know one of the things people are probably trying to get an idea on is this sounds awesome, but how much does something like this cost? And I know there's got to be a tremendous range here, but again, you're educating people and trying to give people some information. I mean, is there a starting point, that, somebody looks at if they're just looked at a single color pool or a mosaic, certain size or anyway, can you give us any reference on that type of thing?
Yeah. Well, if you're asking for a specific number, there is a huge range.
Well, no, I understand.
I can give you, but there's no secrets. I can give you the number. I give it to everybody that calls me. I mean, obviously, but we do have a system in place that we give the pool builders that they can work for in that range. So it allows them to qualify the client and not have to call us for every single pool for us to quote.
Right.
So, here in single solid color pool, we have lines of glass tile that go from anywhere from 890 a square foot. And we use a double-sided tile. We don't, that the single-sided tile is also a problem for the underwater application. And I mean the single-sided tile, the little tiny chip with the 45 degree under it, that really has to really depend on adhesion and really is very weak in compression, which is what keeps the tile honestly in place. I believe with the studies and the people that I've studied around and the old masters that I've studied, and the history tells you that the pieces are kept in place by compression, not by adhesion. There was no adhesion, no epoxy, nothing back hundreds of years ago.
Right.
So what keeps in place is the compression against one another. And, I use, in order for us not to have any callbacks, I changed to a double-sided tile in our manufacturing. And that helps us lock in the pieces for underwater applications. We really make a tile specifically for pools. I mean, for real. It's not really these guys that say it's pool rated. We make them because if not, we got to eat. I can't be eating these jobs. This is not the way I can't be successful.
Right.
So, $890 a square foot. Some from the Murano series will go up to $13 a square foot. Blues and greens, $15 a square foot. And then somewhere around there, we got iridescent, a couple bucks more than that. Then we have the Color 4 Gem Series Bizarro was so popular that we had to also use the aventurine stone and grind it and make that glitter in it. Those are not as popular. I try not to show those as much. You just don't get your bang for your buck with those. So we have an earth series, which we put some of the tile into an acid, which takes up the sheen. And those are anywhere between $15 a square foot, 18. It just depends on the volume and how I feel that day. I really like you, like Mike, I'll give him a good deal. The key is to make sure that we are priced correctly and that the pool builder makes a markup and it's fair. And it's fair. That's the key, because the price comes not because for per square foot, the price comes for the volume. The volume of the pool is what makes this expensive. When you start talking about 1,500 square feet, then you go, well, how much is to do Pebble Tech? Well, Pebble Tech is 8,000, but to glass it is, 85,000. It's like, well, it's like such a range, so, how do you sell this to a client? How do you explain it to them? And it gets a little bit tough. And that's why I work very hard to get content that the pool builders need to be able to explain it to them without them looking at highway robbery, But the key is also the installation. The installation, I remember back when I used to charge $12 a square foot for installation. And those pools are still up, man. Those pools are still good. When we installed the wet set system and all that, those pools are still good today. Took me a long time to raise my prices. I wanted to create another thing too, is what kept my prices really low, is I really wanted to create a humongous portfolio, because I wanted to build Mosaicist as a humongous outdoor living brand. In order for to capture that niche and be able to have it worth something if I wanted to then sell it in the future. So somebody wants to be tile, and somebody wants to get this outdoor industry, and somebody wants to be new in the industry of tile and compete with the outdoor living industry. And the power of the amount of pools and the volume that we've done and the track record that we have, plus the content and everything. So, but anyway, going back to installation, I was at $25 for a very long time for installing. Now I can be anywhere. The range is anywhere between, I would say, $65 to $85 a square foot, and that includes everything. Even includes base creep waterproofing, and no liability to the pool builder at all. The pool builders in today's day are probably making anywhere between 15% to 35% markup. And there's a lot of them who make 100% and they sell a shitload of tile. I'm talking about a shitload of tile there, and they're making 100% markup. But we have to be reasonable. Mosaicist Inc has to make sure that our prices are reasonable. A lot of tiles, many years ago, the red carpet started laying for these installers that were hurting the industry by these erroneous per square foot prices. They're ridiculous. And even manufacturers were not in agreement with it. Behind closed doors, they were like, we don't agree with these, messed up prices. How are we going to be able to sell more tile with these extremely high, expensive prices? And I know that different markets are different.
Right.
Florida, the different market. New York is different. Texas is different. California is different. They're all different markets. You can get away in California and charge you $125 a square foot. You can never get away with that here.
Right.
In Florida. You just can't. But so anyway, we're around there, maybe depending the pool, how complex it is, depending on that.
Okay. That's helpful for people to get a feel for, where costs are in the whole realm. So there's something that you probably wanted to talk about that we haven't asked you a question about. So what should somebody that's going through this process, what's something that they should think about that we haven't discussed? Oh, I did have one more question.
I do too.
Okay. So I should have probably asked Trey if he had a question first, but so how did you get into manufacturing?
The manufacturing came about when the in Mexico, and Mosaicist Inc. in Mexico is owned by a family of the Perdomos.
Right.
And then I was the one that was started to push my own colors. I wanted to push my own colors. I knew that I was doing the outdoor living industry. I didn't want yellows. I didn't want purple. I didn't want that, but I had to get there. And then I'm the one that started to push the Murano series that I have. We make small tea. We make 1,000 colors of small tea, and I picked certain colors and we made them into the industrial Venetian glass squares. I'm the one that turned and pushed the company to start a double-sided tile. I needed a thicker tile so it can lock in harder,
Right.
because I can't have these callbacks of people calling me saying that a tile is missing from the step edge. If I was going to start volume and build a larger company, that was my vision. I had to have the right material first, because the callbacks are extremely expensive for me, with the volume that I move.
Right.
So, and then, today we basically, all the line is mine, and we're introducing a whole bunch of brand new other lines right now. We have an iridescent that's brand new. It just came out of Luxury Pools magazine, mentioned it. We have a new, a lot of people are coming up with new things that wasn't even shown at the covering show. We're going to start distributing for water lines and spas and stuff like that for pool builders. People want the name brand. They want to have a piece of it. They might not be able to afford an all-tile pool, but they're really taken back and they're emotionally involved with the brand, and they want that in their backyard. And we need to facilitate that, and we're going to do it. But we got involved in manufacturing simply by, remember when I used to go to Mexico?
Right.
And I still go there. And once I go there, I see the whole thing. I'm involved in the factory that manufactures different lines, and they make my line. And I go there and I watch the whole thing. I watch how they get the sand, what do they do with the sand, how they get the bottles to do the recycle. I see the entire thing. Now, I can't take a lot of pictures of a lot of it because they don't want to see it. A lot of the stuff is, I guess, they made machines themselves, and they don't want people to see it, how they do it. And everybody always tries to have a little edge on somebody else, on the Italians and the people from India and the ones from Mexico and this and that. But I get involved in how the process is actually how we manufacture, and the paper and the water soluble glue and the machine. And so, before it was a single-sided tile. And then when the tile comes out of the actual trays and goes into the trays, actually, you have like 10 ladies or guys or 20, flipping them because they didn't land properly before they get the paper installed on top of it. Well, if you go to a double-sided tile, it doesn't matter how it lands. Eventually, if it's shaped, we can eliminate all the people on the assembly line. And now you have a system that now shake and will continue to shake until all the pieces fall into the hole, and we eliminate all the people. All the 10, 20 people on the assembly line are eliminated. So, we spend more money on that type of engineering, but we eliminate the labor cost of having to turn the thing, and we solve the problem of the single-sided tile that wants to even pop out of the pool when you install it in a wall. If you remember the ice, when you used to make ice as a kid, you put it on the
Twist
tray.
it. Yeah.
It goes from bigger to smaller, because when you flip it, it needs to come out. That's how those tiles are, with a 45-degree angles on each side. And they're not for pools.
No.
They're just not. They're going to come out. They want to pop out. They have no compression. And those little ridges in the back, we've done studies, little ridges in the back, mechanically, they do nothing. They do nothing. Wow. So, but, they don't keep the tile in place. But anyways, so that I get involved by visiting Mexico over and over again. And this guy, Don Luigi, is the one that pushed for me and championed for me, because I had to do something with my life other than music. And I was such fascinated and I was so motivated by doing something with this Mosaic thing, that he just said, just give him the information you want. Let him fly with it. He's going to go back to the United States and build something. Let him go. And they kept investing in me, kept showing me. And I just kept learning and learning and learning. And then I repackaged their product to compete against, other companies that were nice and beautiful packages and beautiful sample board. And, because they couldn't market correctly. They couldn't get to the States. So I was their only liaison. I was the only bridge to get to the United States market. So that's how I get into it.
That's awesome. My question's a little bit more obscure. And it might be an atrocity to what you think, but I'm just wondering, because you talked about the design, being on the bottom of a pool, have you ever done pebble sheen or some kind of pebble on the sides of the pool for someone to, yep. I figured you wouldn't like that question. It just popped in my head. I had to ask. So,
Have I done pebble sheen?
no.
Plaster?
Well, I know, but has anyone ever wanted to do some kind of pebble on the
Just
walls?
the floor with tile.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The sides with,
Yeah.
Trey, you're recently, I would love to say the name because they're very, very cool pool builders. Recently, we had a guy say, I want a medallion in the middle of my pool, but I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to do the glass tile. I'm going to plaster all around it.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm like, why would you do that? And then I'm like saying, listen, the medallion is like 20 grand. And then sometimes if they're so price conscious, I might say, look, this plaster's not going to last. The glass is going to last much longer than the plaster. Let me give you a break, a price break or something. Let's glass the whole thing. But I would like to show it and I would like to promote this pool and this centerpiece. But if you plaster it, I'm not going to show it. I'm not into plaster, half plaster and half this. And nowadays I literally have pools that are 2,000 square feet. They will glass tile the sun shelf, the water line, the swim out, the little baby thing, and the wadding area, and this and that, and all of the area, and they leave the floor, like a square of the floor, and then some 2 walls, and everything is flat, and everything is glass tile. And I'm like, with 600 more square feet, you could have tiled your whole pool. Look at this, now you have this floor looking like one color, and then you have a tile looking another color, and it shows so bad. It is so cheesy and so shitty. I tell people, or do you do the whole thing, or just don't do this half and half and half. But the problem is that the pools have so much lifestyle now. Have an area that you want to sit down, have an area to swim out, and they don't want to mess up and sandpaper their ass or the swimsuits. And then they have the spa, then they have the spot for the kids, the spot for this. The pools now are complete lifestyles, and people want to have areas to hang out the entire day, not spreading water. So, but I have done. You never see them because I don't promote them, but I have done half and half jobs.
Okay.
Yeah. I've done them. I don't promote them because I just don't like, but I've done medallions and murals.
Yeah.
And I sell a lot of them, and the people put them in the pool, the little horse and the little emblems and their shield and their heraldry, symbols and all that shit and their record labels. And then they plaster everything else. And there's times that I have done a medallion with their last name and everything. And I always make a second piece for them that they can always take out their name and put in a general thing, because when they sell their house, the entire pool doesn't become an eyesore. And I love the house, but I hate the freaking pool. Yeah. It has a name, the last name, Farley.
Who wants a Farley pool?
Who wants a Farley? Well, big F, on it. But anyway, so
I gotcha.
Yeah.
And this just popped in my mind too, real quick. With like the sun shelf and the steps areas, do you have? Because I know a lot of people will think it's just too slippery in those areas for traffic. What would you say to that?
The mosaic tile has a texture on it.
Okay.
It has a grout joints that add they add like resistance. I don't know the resistance of it, and but if you run fast enough and you slide like a slip and slide, you'll probably be successful and eat it and hurt yourself. But if you're coming in there, it's not going to be like a piece of marble, of slippery marble as you walk outside your house.
You have a grip to
your car.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's grip to it, there's texture. Our tile has a lot of texture to it.
And the size of the tile,
1 by 1, right?
Is that correct?
We have a micro mosaic tile, which is it's like almost like a 5/8 tile.
Yeah.
We go to 3/4 by 3/4. We do pixel. We had to get involved in pixel to compete. We just had to, and a lot of pixel is a cop out for the industry, because everybody started with their hand cut mosaic artworks. Everybody. And then when the volume grew so big for these major manufacturers that are based overseas, they cannot get those pieces out on time. They're just backlogged. They can't have enough people. So they outsource to other studios. But then you know what? They just copped it out. They went to pixel. So now they have pixel beautiful, and they set it like super expensive. These pixel mosaic pools with these flowers on them.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, wow. We do hand cut stuff. But it's probably, if I continue to grow, and I'll I'll exhaust the studios. I can't get these jobs out on time. There's not enough artists to do it. So, but we do pitch to workers as well, and also to get a price bracket that we need to be in, especially for commercial applications. And we do 3/4 by 3/4. We do 1 inch by 1 inch. We do 2 inch by 2 inch. No more than that. No bigger than that. On translucents, no bigger than 1 inch by 1 inch, just to fit on anneal properly.
Right. Okay. So I guess back to the question that I asked, was there something you hadn't covered that we should be discussing?
No, I've covered enough. I can't believe that we spoke for this long. And my God, if anyone's still listening, it's probably someone setting up to do business against me. Who would want to listen to all this stuff? They're probably making notes.
Oh,
Be like, I'm going to compete against this guy.
well,
But anyways, the market's so big, the plaster industry is so huge. We need more installers. We need more education. We have all these education programs out there. We have, I know them all, you know what I mean? And if we can get more people to do a apprenticeship teaching on not those weekend teaching, not for the weekend warriors, not the little thing set sponsored by this company and you install a fit, not that. Somebody who can really adopt and installers and teach them. If we get more installers out there, we can get more people, more awareness of glass finished pools. Australia, that's their way to go. Spain, we have all these countries that they don't plaster the pools, man. They glass them, but they have an installer everywhere you see.
right.
Here we don't, and we just don't have that education. I wish we can get it. I would like to do it. I would like to get involved in that. I thought that these education companies that are out there trying to build their brands and build this education system and compete and all that they would actually do a hands-on, adopt something on site. But the actual installers have to open their doors to that. The companies do. I'd be open to it. I would, if you tell me my pay, would you take on 3 installers and teach them what you do? I would say yes. Even if you were to go to install another company's products, doesn't matter. It helps the industry overall.
100%. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's an amazing idea.
Yeah, I mean, I would. So if anybody that's listening to this podcast wants to train their guys for their water line or see how we do it or what we do, because we install different methods. Some people say, oh, we only install this one method and all that. We install, we're very well known to install many methods. We install a lot of different ways, depending on what we're installing. So, but if anybody wants to have their people come and work aside us, please do. Give me a contact and I'll due to this podcast, we'll go ahead and if they reach me through this podcast, out of a thank you for you guys, I would extend their hand, if that means anything to you, for them to come and make it more valuable to you guys, because I've put a lot of information here that I really have never said ever, that I keep in all the chat rooms and all the people talking. And I never really mention a lot of things that I mentioned here with you guys today. But if somebody really has people that want to learn how to install glass tile and pool tile pools, and I'll be more willing to open the door and help them and teach them without no strings attached. They don't have to pay anything or buy our tile.
Well, that's quite an offer, Ray.
That's outstanding. Thank you.
So
yeah, but that's fun.
are we going to get to see your stuff in November or is it October when Tributary comes to see you?
Tributary, I'm a sponsor of Tributary. If they're coming here,
I think we're coming to Florida.
Yeah, I'm going to redo my pool again. In my personal house, and I'm holding off to see if the Tributary people are going to come, because I want to install different methods in my same pool.
Cool.
The walls will be one method, and I want to show the Tributary people how and why we install old world motor method, which we barely use it anymore, and the thin set method and everything, and why synthetics versus cementitious, and why we do the things that we do. There's a reason why, many reasons why. But I have that. Then we have great restaurants. I'm a partner at a steakhouse here in Coral Gables called Christie. So we definitely have that on the list. We also have Ike Carter is going to be also hosting, which is going to be great. He's from, up in Fort Lauderdale. We did a pool together, and Ike and I are friends for a long time. We know each other a long time. I think we might get, as a surprise, I haven't told Jeremy Noggle or anything like that, but we might get Ryan Hughes to come down and maybe talk a little bit about the secret of his business, where he's at, how he's changing his business model, how he got to be so big in such a short amount of time. A couple of things that I wanted him to share. He's very hard to talk to anybody, and very stingy with his time. But how we work together, our success rate, and how, so I wanted him to come and maybe say a couple of things. I think a lot of people would like to hear from him, since he barely talks to anybody. I think I can get him down here.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. So
yeah. So yeah.
We'll
all right.
We'll see you then. So, but thank you again for today, and we'll include your contact information with the episode for everybody. And if there is some pictures you can send to us so we can post those with social media, that would be great as well. So.
Yeah. I was waiting to talk a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and get you the right pictures. And again, you always have to have the disclaimer. Anybody who listens to this stuff, the whole story is not here within 1 hour and a half. There's a lot more to Mosaicist. There's a lot more to you guys. There's a lot of reasons why we do things that we cannot explain. We don't have the time to explain it. But, this is not the all due, podcast of the entire business and everything that we do. So that has to be said. And, but anyway, other than that, thank you for having me. And I'm excited that this is my first podcast. I did one interview, but that was with somebody, but this is my first industry podcast, and I'm really excited. And thank you, Trey. Thank you, Mike, for having me come out.
Thank you, Ray. So have an awesome evening, and we'll talk to you some more soon.
All right. You got it. All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks.
Alfresco is out of City of Industry, California. We were the first dealer in Dallas and Fort Worth to carry Alfresco. It's in our high-end premium lineup. You can see a lot of their storage vehicles and the grill at Claffey's Design Center in Southlake, Texas. Why sell the product? Great service, high quality stainless steel from the company. Versatility from a standpoint, they are the innovator of what we call a sealed storage system. It's not refrigerated, but if you've had a kitchen from Claffey or Texas Outfitters before, and we're blessed to have the second one with our customers, they're going to say, hey, listen, when I open the doors, there's bugs and spiders. You don't get this.
Right, you got a seal in here. So this is sealed like on a door.
That's correct. It's sealed. You've got drawer storage. You've got a wire rack that's in here that you can see cutting boards. So it's element driven, and you can put perishables in here before a party. It's very, very popular. They make this in 30-inch, 42-inch. They also do low profile systems that go under grills. To bring out the inner chef inside of you, Alfresco makes a marinating drawer system. It's refrigerated, all of it. We keep water in our showroom inside of it. This unit's been running for right at about 17 years now. It never goes down unless we power down electricity. This is an Alfresco exclusive. So when I put my meats in here and I bring indoor to outdoor, I can hold in here and then go directly to the grill if I need to.
Wow.
You can plate items inside of it. If you notice how Claffey designs, we kind of mimic that at their showroom. You prep, cook, plate, and you offer all types of vehicles that can go in this grill, from safety zone or grilling griddles that go on here. Also, this is their tier of their indirect roasting pod, steamer fryer, real popular now, solid fuel inserts, which is charcoal and wood. Depends on what that customer wants to cook and how they want to cook. Alfresco can answer their needs. So,
wow, a lot of diversity.
Now, big on colors. Alfresco now has, we see a lot of the stealth black fronts, the blue fronts. So we're customers a little more specific on what their custom needs are. This company tries to answer that with different color variations and palettes that you can actually complement what you're going to do as far as design in your backyard.
So typically you don't ever have something below the grill. You have storage because you have to have a shutoff valve for the gas. So how does that handled with this setup?
That's right. Something that we've done in partnership together that you'll see a lot of, we can touch on safety principle real quick. When you buy Claffey grill and you build it in, the specifier will have the ventilation procedures that are in it. Also, where do we terminate the gas if something were to arise on this? In other words, if something were to get to where it was out of control, if we walk away from it and you've got storage solution here, how do you go and find the gas and turn it off? This is the termination point. It terminates all the gas to the grill and it's accessible. You know, if something were, let's say we were forget to clean out the drip tray and you're not going to go under the grill to turn it off. This is a quick reference point or access to terminate the fuel to the grill is what it is. That's a great safety piece.
Thank you for that explanation.
3-zone system that you have in the Alfresco. This one is a chain-driven rotisserie. It can hold 55, 60 pounds of meat. Chain drivens inside the wall here. You have a stowaway warming rack that's inside of the grill. A helical type opening that opens up the canopy whenever I'm cooking on it. And you can set up the grill in 3 zones of however you want. I can do 2 standard burner and sear. So what is sear versus main burner? Main burner will give you a sear mark. A sear burner will give you a crust on a fillet or a pork chop. We have to ask these questions to our customers. Hey, do you remember the last time you had a fillet that had a crust? Is that something you would want? Yes, that's how we go through that discovery phase. And so,
awesome.
An infusion box. So we put wood chunks inside of there. You can put aromatics, rosemary, and what it'll do is kind of dedicated burner that drives flavors through the whole cooking process and the whole cooking experience. Hood canopy termination for the light whenever I'm not grilling and before I'm grilling lid down, terminates the interior lights, what it does. Fluidity handle, it rolls so it doesn't burn your forearm when you open it. All cast stainless steel knobs, American made products, a high quality product. So
You know your stuff.
we try. 28 years in the business. So